I hate weeks when nothing happens. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob, and I'm in quarantine. This is episode 344 of the O The Anthem podcast, coming to you from the city of Los Angeles. Luckily, because I wasn't in Los Angeles a few hours ago, from all over the place. But Corey is still in the #OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for listening on your podcatcher of choice. The easiest way of doing it, anchor.fm/O The Anthem. Direct links to all the places where you find podcasts.
And Roberto has screwed up all of my OBS scenes, so I am super not happy about that. Either he needs to come back or he's going to be fired for good. We're looking for a producer. If you can be here before Roberto, you're up.
Well, I will say that we had producer Carly for a while.
We did, yeah.
We had producer Roberto. I have a young upstart who's thinking about getting into the producing game too, and I was wondering if I can introduce him right now.
Absolutely. Let's see.
For those of you watching the video.
So if you listen to the podcast usually, you're going to want to go over to YouTube because there is an insanely cute dog that is about the size of Corey's face on the screen right now.
This is Brooks. Hi, Brooks.
And Brooks is a 8-week-old Shih Tzu?
Indeed he is. And insanely cute. And I know everyone thinks that their dogs are the smartest dogs. I mean, some people think their dogs are really dumb, but most dog owners will be like, "Oh, my dog's so smart." He's already peeing on pads. He's pooping on pads. We're already doing pretty well over here. So
la-di-da.
No crying or barking or anything like that. It's been a really chill day. The first day with the dog.
Well, let me make your day unchill because I'm gonna have to call you out on this.
Okay.
I noticed that someone from your past had a life-changing event this weekend.
Yeah.
If you will.
Mm-hmm.
Does that have anything to do with getting a dog?
No, it had everything to do with the fact that the dog that we got was in Anaheim, California, as opposed to like up near Oregon. So like all the times where I've been in the possibility of a dog has been brought up to me before. It's always been like, hey, should we look at this dog that's outside of San Francisco? And I'm just like, how are we going to go up and see the dog and get everything squared away? And like, that's multiple drives up to San Francisco in the hopes of getting one of these dogs that maybe will be good. So having a closer dog was part of the calculus here.
I noted that the dog has a last name.
Yeah.
What's the last name of the dog?
Baker.
Okay, so dog's got your last name.
Yeah.
It's almost like that someone in your life might have been looking for their own life change event that they could post about on Facebook, and you said, "Hell no," and then they were like, "Well, hey, let's have a smaller thing that can have your last name as a life changing event," and you were like, "Dog, absolutely, not the other one, not going to do that." Okay, cool. So you went with the cheapest option, which listen. Smart, 100% smart.
Not as cheap as you would hope.
And I would say taking on a super big expense like a Shih Tzu, which has historically lots of health issues, puppy, which is brand new and going to have a lot of things like pads and food during a pandemic, just top notch.
Well,
top notch.
Seeing as I can't go anywhere or do anything, like this dog is making up for the fact that I haven't been to Vegas like 9 times this year so far. So. Like
okay, so I took my Vegas budget, I put it in a dog budget, and now we got a dog.
Pretty much, yeah. So, there we go.
Well, let's also talk about the other elephant in the room, which is that we are back in quarantine, and that is because, excuse me, I went to go see my own cute little bundle of joy. What's that?
I said COVID. You were coughing there.
Oh, no, I burped. I just didn't want to burp directly into the mic. I also am just funneling caffeine into my system because I sat on a plane on a tarmac for 7 hours and did not remove my mask because I refused to remove my mask on the plane. So we got on the plane at 2:45. We disembarked 1 hour later when they realized we can't fix the problem with the plane, which, you know what, honestly, at that point, I was just like, yeah, let's take our chances. Yeah, let's push it down on the runway, see what happens. But we disembarked, and then they found another plane, And then we got on that plane, and then they pushed back from the gate. And then the guy was like, ooh, clock ran out. We had to be off the ground by now. And since we have to sit in line, we've timed out. And our union doesn't allow us to go beyond or whatever. And I'm like, I am so pro union, but
except in moments like this.
Yeah. So then we went back to the gate. Another plane landed, and the guy who just went Seattle to Philadelphia then ran across the airport, or was carted across the airport, I assume, and then jumped on our flight to fly Philadelphia to LA. So, and he
just
was just
rubbing
like,
his nose, going like, I'm good.
He's like, he came on the thing and he was like, we're going to take off as soon as possible. I do want to do a walk around the plane. I know the other pilots did it, but we all have our ways of doing it. Also, I need to look at the route because I'm not sure where we're going. Los Angeles? Okay, we're going to Los Angeles. And I was like, you know what? Just push it down the airport. Let's just see what happens. I don't really care. But yeah, so I made a surprise to, like, I guess Mac, but that was it. But otherwise secret trip to Maryland, where I got a COVID test on Tuesday. Everything was good. Got on the plane on Thursday night, landed on Friday, and I was there Friday, Saturday, and he's with his dad for his birthday. So we did his birthday this weekend instead of next weekend, which is his real birthday, which apparently is 14th, not the 13th, because I'm a terrible uncle and I don't know his birthday. The problem is there's too many teens in it. It's like, oh, my birthday is 11/14/17. And I'm like, bro, that is too many teens. I'm never going to remember that. They're all right together there. Like, my birthday is 1/10/84. Easy to remember. 0110. And then the year George Orwell thought the world was going to end. Turns out it's 2020. But yeah, so we had his little birthday party, and he's adorable. And here's the two things I've learned about Maxon over the last few days. One, I was an adorable but annoying kid, because basically my mom is just like, yeah, how you liking that? Yeah, we had that every day for years. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I see you getting frustrated because he doesn't want to do it your way. And you're like, this doesn't make any sense. And but he wants to play the game by his rules. Yeah, that was us every day. And I'm like, oh, sorry. The other thing I could say,
it sounds like your mom was chambering that for a kid, and she thought it might have been you, and instead it was Sarah. So
apparently Sarah went and just cloned me, and then it came out with her face, and the rest of it's just me. He's in class with like also I had 7-year-olds on my flight, and I just want to turn around and scream at him like, my 3-year-old nephew is better
behaved.
So much calm. Yeah, he's just better behaved. He's much more calm and just like chill. But also, I also know he's a cheek because he has problems dealing with his emotions. And when I was leaving, and the night before, he just like had a meltdown in the car because he thought it was gonna be the last time he saw me. My sister was like, "No, we're coming back tomorrow morning," and he was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Totally fine, right?" So he's like, "I'm gonna be fine." And then today we were saying goodbye, and he wouldn't take a picture. And then he was like, I was like, "I have to go," and he was like, "No hug," and he just like ran back in the house. And I'm like, cheek, that is all. I can't deal with emotions, and we're not good at any of this stuff. So but yeah, he's adorable, and I don't want kids anymore at all.
You've decided?
I'm satisfied. I had a little conversation with him where he asked me like, where are your kids? And I was like, I don't have kids. And he's like, you should have kids. And I was like, well, but if I have kids,
Mom been
I don't
talking to you?
Nana been talking to you? Tell her to shut her fucking mouth. But just kidding, Mom, if you're watching. But basically, I was like, well, if I have kids, I don't have money to send my nephew cool gifts, because I send him stuff like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times a month. He basically, any package that comes to the house that where my sister lives with her roommate, he basically just like claims it. He's like, no, mine. And like, your name's not on it. You don't know it's yours. He's like, no, mine. My Uncle Robert sends me stuff all the time, so it has to be for me. And I was like, yeah, so I'm not gonna be able to have money. If I have kids, I have money to send you stuff. And he was like, you don't need kids. It's fine. And
he's like,
it's settled.
I like how he's looking at you going like, maybe it's for the best if you don't.
And here's the thing. I've met the biological need to procreate. And the only thing that's missing from that is like watching that little piece of you grow up outside of you. Yeah. And I get to do that. Only I also get to play video games until 3:00 in the morning, and then wake up at noon. So
The life.
enjoy, Sarah. Enjoy, Sarah. You get to deal with a little asshole that's just like me for the rest of your life, and I get to do the fun stuff.
I mean, I think the worst part of if you had a kid would be the moment where the kid says something back to you. Like every once in a while, Rob does this to me, where like I'll be talking to him about some political argument or something like that, and then he'll say something in a way that I've never heard it said before, and then I'll have to think for a second, and I'm just like, God damn it, Rob's right. Like I had the whole argument figured out, and then I didn't think about this one little thing, and Rob figured it out. And at some point, some kid is gonna like, if you had like a little kid, it would be like a 7-year-old version of you, and it's just like, well, why don't you just take 2 cars? And you're just like, motherfucking kid has figured it out, and I haven't. Like this is awful. I hate this thing.
No, the worst part is, Mom's going to come downstairs. We're going to have our underwear on our head and be sitting naked otherwise, eating ice cream at 6 o'clock in the morning. And she's going to be like, what the kid makes a good argument. I don't know what to tell you. This started out with cereal and baths, and we ended up with underwear on heads and ice cream. I don't know what to say. He's me. I can't. But Sarah also reminded me on this trip that being that I am 36, about to turn 37, we have now entered the danger zone, if you will, where kids might just start popping out the woodwork. So I'm going to have to change all my social media because I don't want anybody to be able to find me. You're going to be able to find me at Daniel McAllister all over.
That Daniel Robert N. Cheek is coming back to haunt you.
Gone. It's all gone. I'm not doing any of it. Daniel Explains. Danny Explains. That'll be the new podcast everybody can listen out for.
Until all the kids start looking for Daniel McAllister. Because that's because a good degree of them will be coming from hotel rooms booked to Daniel McAllister.
That is also true. The only thing I know about my dad, my mom said he was a real dick, and his name is Daniel McAllister. That was on the receipt that my mom kept from 18 years ago.
I looked all around for him until I found I am Daniel McAllister on Twitter.
Yeah, so I got that minefield to mine.
You start the account, the first tweet is just some guy going like, Daddy. And you're like, no.
Nope. Like my most popular Vine ever, where it was just Robert. Bitch, that ain't my baby. That's my policy on life. And you know what? Here's the thing. I wouldn't mind if some 18-year-old kid came and found me, as long as I was like, how old are you? 18? Like your birthday already passed? All right, statute of limitations. I ain't got to pay no child support. Come on here, boy. Let's go.
Like, I'm legally not responsible anymore.
16 and a half? I ain't your daddy for another year and a half. You come find me in 18 months, then we can talk. I don't play that. I'll lock this up in court for a long time. And speaking of locking things up in court for a long time, apparently that is how you win elections in the United States in 2020. That's right. They call me Transition Man for a reason.
Yeah, so don't know if anyone knew, but the presidential election happened this past week. And guess what?
And by that you mean the 7-day festival that we have every year to celebrate the election?
It should be illegal to watch that much CNN. I feel like at the end of it, I was a hollowed out potato with what was left of a brain there. Because I'm just like,
listen, we joke about Mark Zuckerberg maybe being an android. I think John King is actually an android. Every time I turn on the TV, he's at the magic wall. It's like, let's go to John King at the magic wall. I'm like, this motherfucker's been up for 47 hours. What is he doing?
It's not only that, but Phil Mattingly is the other person who handles magic wall duty for CNN.
With Cuomo. So he's got to do with Cuomo.
It's one of the two of them for 24 hours. Like, so it's like John King tags out and Phil Mattingly comes in, and then Phil's got to deal with like questions from Chris Cuomo going like, so the Electoral College, like, is this a liberal arts education or something like that? And then Phil's like, Chris, are you new to this, or your dad ran for president? You should know how this works.
My favorite moment of all the election coverage was Phil Mattingly looking at Chris Cuomo with the like, oh, that's not rhetorical. Okay, I can answer that. Yeah, it's like, that was so dumb. I assumed you were giving me a rhetorical question. But yeah, so what you're saying is we got to get at least half of the votes on the board. So that's 270, Chris. 270. Yeah. All right. So that's 50% plus one. It's like, you've been doing election coverage, man. Come on. Count on your fingers and toes.
Oh,
But
but
yes, it should be illegal to have to watch that much CNN. Also, everybody need to. I know I posted this on Instagram, but like everybody needed to chill because it didn't matter. I don't know why people were sitting around waiting for like. It was like the week after 9/11 when everyone just laid on the couch watching planes hit buildings over and over and over again and
yeah,
just couldn't get out of their own way.
it's
I flew across the country.
it's. I think the thing that was bothering me most about it was the on Tuesday, all the Trump votes coming in first filled me with a lot of dread.
Mm-hmm.
And like Rachel was looking at me like, is Biden going to win this thing? And then I'm just like, it's really early. Let's not count our chickens, or like let's not get worried yet and stuff like that. They haven't counted the mail-in vote. Like some of these states are going to count that mail-in vote last, and it's just all going to come in like a surge. Don't worry. But then I'm like looking at it, and I'm just like, Trump's up 600,000 in Pennsylvania. There's no fucking way.
That's a lot of votes.
That's a lot of mail-in votes. And then it turns out there was a lot of mail-in votes, so thank God. But
yeah, apparently like a third of the electorate may have voted absentee and or mail-in.
Yeah. And
So,
it makes sense to me. Like I have always been of the mind that I wanted to vote on election day. I like the romanticism of going to the polls. I like I like the act of voting. Like it's fun for me. And having that sort of taken away by COVID was something that I didn't want to do, but also at the same time I didn't want to go to a place where a lot of people who might have COVID are voting. So it's like the mail-in ballot's fine. I'll be fine with the mail-in ballot.
it's weird. It's weird to hear, to hear someone speak of, I just romanticize the choosing of the overlord who's going to dominate my life for the next 4 years. And not really that. I'm going to choose the people who choose the person who is my overlord for the next few months because the founders in their infinite wisdom wanted me to be one step separate from the actual vote. So,
well, it's not my doing. It's this elector's
yeah. And by the way, we're just so you guys understand the news cycle, here is what's about to happen. So we're still counting votes. The military vote is actually allowed to be in later. So your vote had to be postmarked by a certain day. In Pennsylvania, for instance, it's postmarked by election day, received at least 10 days up to election after election day, which means we're not even done yet. They could receive more votes. But there is an exception to that rule. And if your mail is postmarked on a military base that is not in the United States, then there is an exception to that. That's basically like, if we haven't certified, we count your vote. So if you're in Guam and, a bat flies in and drops it into the election headquarters in Pittsburgh, we're going to count that vote as long as it's been postmarked U.S. military Guam.
Right.
So, and again, military votes have historically gone stronger to Trump. Maybe not so much in the future when he's the one shouting like none of these votes count and they're all mail-in votes from the military.
I was thinking about the suckers and losers and what's in it for them that might have cost him the military vote a little bit too, but who knows?
I mean, also that
that small little thing.
Confusing Hunter Biden and Beau Biden and the guy who served meritoriously in 2 different theaters of war, who got wrapped up in his father's campaign some reason because Trump doesn't know the difference between the 2 kids. And here's what I'd tell you. I know 100% that other than Ivanka, he cannot tell any of his own kids apart. That's what that tells me. He's like my aunt who just would like lean down out of her chair and just be like, Rod, Sarah, one of you kids come here. Like that is Trump at his house. Hey, I'm not going to bother Ivanka with this, but I'm just going to keep shouting names till somebody shows up. And then
he knows Don Jr.'s name because it's his name too. That he won't forget that one.
See, I don't know that.
Eric, I imagine he's forgetting all the time.
I think he might think Barron is actually Don Jr. because like he's the one who's like relatively attractive and isn't doing coke on national TV and all those things. So, but as I saw somebody put it, the long night is over, which isn't actually true. So what you're going to see in the next few days, the final votes will come in. The likelihood that Biden is now taken over by whatever remains is probably low. I think he's got 1,000 vote margins most places. So, but Then there'll be the lawsuits. Wisconsin is probably going to be a forced recount. Michigan will probably be a forced recount. Georgia will likely be a forced recount because their law allows for recounts if it's less than a certain percentage.
0.5%,
And
I
we
think,
are
in all those. Though
yes.
I think Michigan's isn't within the automatic recount territory because I think their margin is a lot smaller. Theirs might be like 0.25% or something like that. And I think the Trump campaign was talking about asking for a recount in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
At least if
Well, and
that's what, like the other problem is that, the Trump campaign throughout this whole thing has been throwing out, we're going to sue here, we're going to do this. And then you got to wait and find out whether or not they actually do any of these things, because to order a recount in Michigan as opposed to an automatic recount in Georgia or Wisconsin or something like that is a lot of money. So the state will cover it if it's an automatic recount, but if you're just asking for one, then it costs a lot more. And then I honestly don't remember there ever being a recount in this country where more than like 100 or something votes like changed. Like it's
other than Florida in 2000.
Yeah, I mean,
and that was a different issue. That was the hanging Chad problem of like, do you count these or not? So
right, or the butterfly ballot was the other one in Florida that year.
Yeah,
that caused a lot of confusion as to like what voter intent was and stuff like that. But I mean, like all the Trump lawsuits that I've heard so far are for such a small amount of ballots that it doesn't really seem to. So like, what happens if you win? Like, so the lawsuit that he's talking about bringing up in Georgia is over 56 ballots that may or may not have come in a couple minutes after 8:00 or whatever. Whenever the deadline was in Georgia. And so the argument is we're going to spend a lot of money and time fighting this in court to maybe just invalidate 56 ballots. Like that's not the margin.
No. So the Georgia aside, the hope is that you get Wisconsin or Michigan or Pennsylvania to agree with you at some point. Then you use that as precedent to go to another state and say, so here's the line that's been drawn in your appellate district. Now, you are a state judge and you don't have to follow that. But if you're looking for an excuse, I gave you one because we won over here on this. And I mean, that's the problem is that like it's you're shopping for forum to find something. Now, the good news is that there are the capital of Michigan is Lansing.
Yep.
So I think that there are 4 other Lansings. There's like a Lansing, Illinois. There's a Lansing, New Hampshire, a Lansing, Michigan. So the likelihood that they actually appear, that the Trump team actually goes to the correct Lansing is kind of low based on historical data. And that, of course, is that Trump said he wanted to have an announcement at the Four Seasons, and they did book the Four Seasons. Landscaping in East Philadelphia, not the Four Seasons Hotel.
This is literally my favorite thing that I think has ever come out of this election. And it's not just that there's 2 different Four Seasons and one is a very well-known fancy hotel and the other is a landscaping service, but it's the fact that mistake was made by a presidential campaign who is trying to argue that the other side is like so corrupt and like breaking all the rules and they don't know how to. Oh, that's right. It's midnight now. All my lights just changed.
Oh, the lights just went off. Ooh. Setting the mood lighting over there. What's going on?
In case you were wondering, it's midnight on Pacific time.
So, I mean, as part of this, I'm sure that if you call Four Seasons Landscaping, when they answer the phone, I'm sure they just say, Four Seasons. And if you call the Four Seasons Hotel, by the way, because I know whoever made this hasn't ever called the Four Seasons, they actually say something like, thank you for calling the Four Seasons by Marriott, a JW Marriott Hotel. This is Clarice. How can I help you? And they were like, Four Seasons.
Hello, Clarice.
Yeah, Four Seasons. We'd like to book you for a press conference. What? Don't you guys do press conferences? I mean, yeah, we got space for it, I guess.
We could do it if you want.
We got 15,000. Is that going to cover it? Yeah, that'll cover it for sure. We can do it. What's the address again? That doesn't sound like it's downtown. Well, we're downtown adjacent.
So here's the greatness of the timeline here. Trump tweets, press conference, 11 a.m., Four Seasons, Philadelphia. And then the Four Seasons tweets, There is no press conference scheduled for the Four Seasons today. Nobody from the Trump campaign has talked to us. Blah 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 blah. And then Trump deletes the original tweet and then tweets out a press conference 11:30 Four Seasons Landscaping Company or whatever it is. It's like
conveniently located between the adult bookstore and the crematorium in East Philadelphia.
What a fucking shit show! Like, because think about it like this: like, if you say you were going to court for something, right? Like you were wrongly accused for killing your wife, and it was really the one-armed man who did it, right? And you needed to hire a lawyer. And you look around, and you can't get any of the top lawyers, so you have to settle for Rudy Giuliani or someone of his ilk, right?
Wait, is he the guy with his hand in his pants in that video?
In the Borat, yes.
No, okay.
So you have to hire a Rudy Giuliani-like lawyer, right? And then you're showing up for court. You're like in your suit. You're ready for the whole thing to start. You're looking around for your lawyer. And then he comes in. He's just like, like, oh, sorry, I'm late. I got pulled over for a DUI, but it's all right. I bribed the cop. And you got to like look at him and you're just like, should you be my legal counsel at this moment? If this is how badly you fuck up on the way to help me, is this something that I want to examine further?
There's a meme thing that I loved when I was practicing law, and it's like, it's still good. It just doesn't, I don't see these on the daily anymore. But it was like, you're going to jail if, and it was like pictures of lawyers where like one guy was wearing house shoes to court. And they're like, if your lawyer shows up with these, you going to jail. So you should just cut a deal. And one of them, the lawyer came in and he was wearing a Tommy Bahama shirt. And then he borrowed somebody's jacket to put on over it and pushed his very long hair out of his face with sunglasses. And they're like, if your lawyer looks like this, you're going to jail. So you need to cut a deal.
I can't even. The other thing is that like Trump, in part of the preparing for possibly having to have a legal fight upcoming in this election, looked at Jared and was just like, we have the legal team all squared away, right? And Jared's like, yeah, no problem. No
we
problem.
Got it.
We got it. And then he turns around and it's Pam Bondi and Rudy Giuliani. and like,
all right, who's still bar approved here? Anybody?
I would imagine that when Trump was like, get me the finest set of election lawyers you can find, like you're thinking that he's going to put together like an OJ style dream team or something like that. Like not Giuliani and Pam Bondi.
What are the odds that Jared put together a really great team, and then they went to meet Trump, and Trump's like, I don't know any of these guys. Who are these guys? And like, this is literally the primo election law team in the country. And he's like, nah, we got to get Rudy in here. Is Rudy still in the building? Pam? Is Pam here? Can we add these? And then all the other lawyers were like, nah, fuck this. And they left. And it's just Rudy and Pam now.
I don't get it.
But obviously, the point of this being, Trump is fighting the results of the election on grounds that, as a former attorney, do not make sense to me. As a political scientist, I have the degree. They don't make sense to me. As a scholar, if you will, of politics, they don't make sense to me. Have you heard anything that, other than the automatic recounts, which the states are like, yeah, we got to redo the vote. We got to count them again. And by the way, how upset's Nevada going to be when they finish in 6 weeks and then they got to redo that same vote next day? Poor people.
We'll have it by the next election. Don't worry.
But
by the way,
the
memes last week of making fun of Nevada were chef's kiss, just beautiful. I loved it. I was enjoying every single one of them.
Well, and I think I told you on near election day, my theory is that the state Secretary of State there was like, all right, we have a chance to be a kingmaker here. We can make every president come to Nevada. So we need to time this out exactly right. Okay, how far are we? 86. All right, we're right on track. Oh, Pennsylvania's caught it. Well, shit. Never mind. All right, just whenever you're ready, give me those ballots. Because it felt like they were trying to build it up to be like, Arizona's going to call, and he needs 6. He's got to get 6 to get to 270. And guess who's got 6, baby? It's right here.
What's amazing to me about the whole thing is that, like, it would be the same way if the election ever came down to California. Like if
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like all the states were decided except for California because, I don't know, some Republican from California was running for president. Nixon came back or something like that. Or
They didn't
Reagan.
even support him in California.
Well, yeah, I know.
Reagan, maybe Reagan.
Maybe Reagan gets a bunch of people who go like, I'm going to vote for somebody who came back from the dead. Sure, why not? If it ever came down to California, people would be just as upset with us as they are with Nevada because we have the same sort of rule where it takes like 8.5 weeks to count all the vote.
Well, I mean, 8.5 weeks is being easy. I think somebody sat down and ballot and was like, all right, 2016 is officially counted. We're ready. When's the next election? Tomorrow? Fuck. All right. There are like 8 million uncounted ballots right now in California. It's just like, if Trump takes all of these, he will still not win the state. We can call it. It's fine.
It's not even that. It was I checked results today for a local race in LA County, and it did the updated today at 3:00, and I looked at it, and it was 70% done. And I'm just like,
by the
guys,
way,
come on, you're killing
who's
it.
out though?
What?
You know who's out?
Who?
Jackie Lacey.
Oh yeah, I know. Gascon beat her.
Out.
And at some point, we will get into some smaller parts of this. We don't have to do this right now, but like the fact that Uber and Lyft basically bought a ballot measure is
You say bought, I say bribed, because they basically put, every time I opened up the app, they were just like, by the way, we're not going to be available.
Well, the worst part is that, like, so the reason that, just real quick on that one, just in case you don't know, Prop 22 was whether or not to allow Uber and Lyft drivers to be independent contractors. Because the last election, there was ballot measure 5, which meant that nobody could be independent contractors anymore, or at least from a professional standpoint. You couldn't hire somebody as an independent contractor without giving them the rights to health insurance and everything else that comes with it. And
it essentially made it the same. So why hire them as an IC?
Yeah, but it literally has laid waste to a lot of people in the independent, like me, who I don't work one job every week for the whole year. I work on 20 to 30 jobs a year under normal circumstances. And it's 20 to 30 different people that I'm working for. So that messes up with me, and it messes up Uber drivers and Lyft drivers. So I can see the reason why they want to overturn that. But also Uber and Lyft was like bigfooting everything, saying, we're not going to run in California if you don't vote for our fucking bill. So it was kind of it's up to you whether or not you ever want to get an Uber again in California. And then I think that literally worked on a lot of people. So it was a much more difficult issue to explain to people. But basically Uber and Lyft just spent so much money and just got it passed. And I wish whoever ran their campaign did Jamie Harrison's too, because there was a lot of money spent on that one and he did not win. So
no.
And now now Lindsey Graham's going on Hannity going like, the vote is rigged.
Yeah. I hope the vote was rigged in South Carolina.
The vote is rigged everywhere except for in South Carolina, where I won big.
It is completely legitimate in South Carolina, just so we can say that for sure. But
in 49
in every other
states, mayhem.
I have to adjust one thing. Can you talk about the Kim Classic election in Baltimore, which was also apparently rigged?
Can I? Yes. So it was Cummings' seat that was up there, and it was Kwesi Mfume versus Kim Classic, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't really care. She's not going to be around for much longer, so it doesn't matter. She was running as a Republican in Baltimore City, which is, I don't even know why you would bother doing that. It's not even if you were to do really well as a Republican in Baltimore City, your upshot is maybe getting 30% of the vote. So, anywho. She got absolutely curb stomped by Kwesi Mfume, who was the former head of the NAACP, which helped him in a majority black Baltimore. And I don't understand why all these people think that just saying that there was voter fraud or some corrupt practices going on is going to make us look the other way on like a 80-20 drumming. The same thing
You're
happened
telling
with
me that there's no chance a Republican won that seat, Corey, and I'm calling you a liar. There's absolutely. I don't know if you saw. She was super popular. She was on Fox News, the #1 news show or news network in
West
Baltimore, isn't it?
She what did she misspell in one of her ads? She ran an ad where she like I swear to God she misspelled Baltimore or something like that or something or election or there was a very important word that she misspelled in an advertisement and it was like
Well, it was I know that there was a couple one where she had the neighborhoods from Baltimore. One of them was in Baltimore County. It wasn't actually in Baltimore, and then there was I think the misspelling was of the neighborhoods. Like Holland's Market wasn't spelled correctly, and it was just like, I'm here for all of Baltimore. Baba, Baba. I'm like, wait, first of all, one of those neighborhoods is
she had the weirdest ads too because it was literally like
girl boss.
Yeah, like just like walking in high heels and a dress through like all these Baltimore neighborhoods that are falling apart. And she's just like, this is what Baltimore's like, and I'm gonna fix it. And I'm just like, how? what's your plan? So
yeah. Also, what's your plan to go into the minority and somehow get money for Baltimore, a place which your party hates on principle? I don't understand.
I just remember when Hillary lost in 2016, there was some conversation that was happening in Clinton HQ about whether or not they should look into whether or not there was any irregularity in the vote because the margins were thin enough. Across Wisconsin and Minnesota or and Michigan and Pennsylvania and stuff like that, where if there was some sort of corrupt practice going on, perhaps it might have actually made some sort of impact on the vote because, 10,000 votes, not likely, but maybe there was something there. It's not the same as being down 100,000 in Pennsylvania like Trump is with Joe Biden or whatever it's going to end up being. But the idea was like, the Democrats basically came to Hillary afterwards and was just like, listen, you are going to ruin us for a generation if you do this. Just take the defeat, walk away. Like we can't put even if we could potentially overturn this whole thing, it's not going to be worth the damage to our reputation to do it. And
we lost the Senate, by the way, so it's not going to matter. You're going to be a lame duck. So
and I just can't with these Republicans who are not only arguing that there was some corrupt practice that kept them from winning, but doing so in races where they got just absolutely hosed. There was another one with the guy running against Karen Bass here in L.A. And again, it was like, Karen Bass took 80% of the vote and he took like 13 or something like that, which is a usual Republican versus Democrat LA special, much like Baltimore. And he's putting up tweets going like, I'm not going to concede. I'm going to the Board of Elections and I'm going to demand a recount because this isn't right. And I'm just like, dude, what's the benefit? Like maybe something went really wrong and 5% of the vote shifts. You're still getting beat 75-20. So there's no point. Like what good comes from this other than the ruining of your reputation for appearing to be a bad loser?
The Onion story where it was like, in last-ditch effort, Trump to change his name to Joseph R. Biden Jr. in order to... If he didn't like his own name that much, it might be possible. But otherwise, I don't know.
It's an interesting... you know what? And the worst part is that like there's been 10 lawsuits so far filed on behalf of the Trump campaign. He's 0 for 10 so far in these lawsuits. And a healthy amount of them, the judge like literally would like look at them and be like, where's the evidence? And it's just like, well, we heard some guy talk about it. It's like, that's hearsay. I can't accept that. It's just like, he's just like, why not? And it's like, why not? Like, have you been a lawyer? For any length of time? Like, why can't I accept hearsay evidence? Like, half of these cases have just been like laughed out of court. But my concern always is that some decision that is made straight up or down, as opposed to like dismissed with prejudice and stuff like that. Something that's like, I'm finding in favor of the state of Georgia against the Trump or the Trump campaign in this thing, but it's a straight no vote from the judge that can get appealed and continue to get appealed until eventually the Supreme Court hears it. And then the concern is that they're not going to be able to help themselves from voting 6-3 on the worst legal decision you've ever heard that just keeps getting pushed up because they keep appealing, you know?
Yeah, and I was gonna say that I think that like 6 of the 10 right now were dismissed at the initial hearing. Like
Yeah.
this is facially incorrect. You're just making an assumption that's wrong. And then a few of them were like, all right, how about this? In 3 weeks, we're gonna have a proffer of evidence. You bring in what you got, and then we'll see if this continues. And then they said things like, all right, so what we have is this election official heard from 3 voters, and like, okay, where are those voters? Well, we don't have those voters because he didn't get his name, but we have this guy. Nope, that's hearsay. We can't use that. All right, well, that's what we had. So where do we want to go from here? Like, have you been a lawyer? What's going on? But you're right. A straight no, or something that gets through those initial phases and actually hears evidence, like we sit and have a trial.
And there's a decision at the end of it. Yeah.
Yep. And it's like Bush v. Gore, which in the like I think the first paragraph and the last paragraph both say this cannot be used in the future. This is a single decision. It only applies here. We want to be clear on that. And then 2 of the justices cited that opinion when it came to a Trump case. And you're just like, it literally says it cannot be looked to as precedent. And you're now looking to it as precedent, which is the dangerous part. Because now there's another one of those people on the Supreme Court. So, yeah. And I just want to say,
I mean, this is obviously like kind of like a super Hail Mary for the Trump administration that they get some sort of decision that keeps going its way up the court and then it makes its way into the most fraudulent Supreme Court decision you've ever heard. But even in that case, even if he overturns one state, like, you know, overturns Pennsylvania or something like that on that, like you're not getting enough electoral votes to actually sway the election.
Yeah, I mean, because with Georgia and Nevada, I mean, what it came down to is he needed Georgia and Pennsylvania. You can't get to 270 anyway. Otherwise, you have to overturn both of those. And by the way,
he also needed Arizona or Nevada, one of the 2 of them.
With Arizona and Nevada, Biden has 270. So it doesn't matter. You can take the other 2 back. Okay, that's fine. Take them back. Take Wisconsin. Great. All right. But I'm going to keep Georgia and Nevada and
Pennsylvania.
So it's fine. I don't know what the end game is here, except for delay.
It just feels like if you were watching Monday Night Football, right? And it didn't happen like this tonight, but let's say the Patriots are beating the Jets like 45-0, and it's the 4th quarter, and it's 30 seconds left, and there was a Hail Mary and a questionable touchdown call, and you have Adam Gase like throwing the challenge flag, like this could affect a lot of things. Let's do it. It's just like, dude, you lost. Like, there's no way you're coming back from this. But you're gonna challenge.
It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast. Can we go to bed?
We'll look under the fucking hood at your stupid ass challenge. Like,
but yeah. And if it was just the president, that would be disturbing enough. But it's also Mitch McConnell and the GOP basically nationwide saying there's fraud everywhere. Wait, like South Carolina? Nope, no fraud in South Carolina. You mean like Maine 2nd District? Nope. Collins was good. That was a good election. But the presidential vote in the 2nd District might be fraudulent. So what you're telling me is there's a nationwide conspiracy to get Biden elected, and we didn't say, let's throw in the Senate while we're doing this. Like, okay.
So here's the thing that has really ruined my good time of a Biden win here so far. And it's
celebrate your overlord, Corey. Tell me what
it's basically this. It's when I was looking, I couldn't find the exact difference in votes right now, but at one point during the election, Trump was up about 5 million more votes than he had in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally looked at it and I was saying to myself, how in the world could 5 million more people vote for Donald Trump than they did in 2016? Because in my mind, when I was prognosticating how this thing was going, and granted, I was using polls that ended up being very wrong as part of my logic for this prognostication.
Mm-hmm.
But like my mind, I was just like, okay, Trump might get a sliver more votes than he did before because people are going to be like, oh, I need to turn out because this Senate race is also happening and I guess I'll vote for Trump while I'm here. Or maybe, you know, like I know for a fact that there was some Republican votes that went to Trump that didn't go to him in 2016 because the mail-in ballots came to them and they weren't going to go to the polling place.
Half of those I would wager are states where they said in order to get the people to vote, we're going to send them ballots.
Yeah.
Now, that's going to mean that Trump's vote's going to go up too, because there are going to be people who, I don't know, live in parts of Maryland where it doesn't even matter, who aren't served by the GOP, but who are, I mean, I was just there. People who are in LA, you live in a bubble. I just went to a place where I didn't see a single Biden sign the entire weekend.
And this is more to the point of what I think is the problem here, because I don't think that more people said to themselves, oh, I wasn't going to vote for Trump in 2016, but I'm definitely voting for him in 2020 because of locking kids up in cages or Muslim ban or any of the other things that he did over the last 4 years. It's because I really think there's a philosophical shift in the Republican Party between the ideals and the principles that you had before, the small government, the like more independent liberty and stuff like that. Those sort of things have just been cast aside in place of owning the libs. Mm-hmm. And I thought about this a lot because Trump will do things that are not conservative like ideology, but it's something that really pisses off Democrats. And it's not even that like the Republican Party over the last couple of years, believe it or not, has actually become a little bit better on gay issues than it was for a long period of time. It is not an automatic disqualifier if you were pro-gay marriage as a Republican anymore, like it used to be if you were in the 80s or early 90s, right?
Yeah, there's like there's a caucus now, right? Like the Lincoln Log something like
that. I don't remember exactly what it's called.
Pro-gay GOP, where it's like we're going to vote with you on everything except for marriage equality, essentially.
Yeah. But owning the libs as just a generalized political philosophy doesn't necessarily mean that whatever the liberals hate is going to be the right thing to do. Like, it's just angering half the country. And I honestly, because, I'm like watching, people with like fuck your feelings t-shirts and stuff like that. And I'm like, this person doesn't get subtle political differences. This person doesn't understand, what the difference is between like a flat tax and what Joe Biden is proposing or anything like that. They just know that Trump irritates liberals. They've been a Republican for all their lives. And in this goal, if the Democrats are upset, then the Republicans must be happy.
Yeah.
And this whole philosophy is torpedoing any kind of chance that we have of actually making any kind of reasonable progress in this country. Because, we talked about, you remember Ted Yoho, the congressman who called AOC a bitch or a fucking bitch?
Just re-won his district?
No, didn't. Lost to
didn't?
No. He lost in the primary to a former aide of his in the congressional office who ran to his right. So
that's right.
He lost to somebody who was further right than he was. And, it literally did hurt him to say fucking bitch to AOC because it cost him that primary. But, that seat's still Republican. But it's not Republican by Wayne Gilchrist or Ronald Reagan or any like Republican hero that you would think of. It's by somebody who is, just barely there of QAnon. Like it's not.
Well, that's Gilchrist, right? Gilchrist lost to Andy Harris, who was to his right in the primary, and then the seat went to Andy Harris. And again, I have had conversations this weekend with people where I'm like, "What is wrong with the Biden tax plan? Well, he's going to raise taxes. Okay." You do not make $400,000. This household does not make $400,000. If you included my income in this household, it would not be over $400,000. Yeah, but you don't understand that the rich Democrats are going to pay off their senators in order to make this have loopholes. And I'm like, Democrats don't have the Senate. Like maybe if the Democrats have the Senate, but Democrats don't have the Senate right now. So where's your argument at? Well, they're going to pay it off. It's always going to trickle down to the middle class. And I'm like, you sound like a communist. What are you talking about? You sound like me. That's shit I say. How does that make you want to vote for Republicans?
Here's the real thing. If you want to know why it always trickles down in the middle class, it's because the rich find a way to not have to pay the taxes. If you make enough money, you can afford a really good accountant who can find you all the loopholes that'll keep you from paying taxes.
Yeah.
Like Amazon is not paying taxes because they choose to. It's because, they do choose to. They choose to find the person who allows them to set up their corporation in a way where they don't have to pay taxes.
But
So-
like 30 years ago, it made sense to vote Republican because you're right. That was the party that was like, no, we're going to get something close to a graduated floored flat tax where it's like stages. You fill it out on a postcard, you're good. That is not the Republican Party anymore. How do you think that this Republican Party is somehow going to address that Joe Biden tax plan with something that's not like, you know what, we like it, but there's not enough money being given to rich people. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a tax break as well as this tax plan.
I mean,
like,
if you think about all the money that got hoarded in the Panama Papers, like that sort of aspect of it, plus the constant stories you hear about Trump paying $750 a year in federal taxes and stuff like that, you would
which
quickly
he's a genius for.
You would quickly realize that if everyone played by the rules and there wasn't, like these huge loopholes that allowed rich people to get away from paying the taxes, then we'd be able to pay for a ton of social programs without having to do anything else. Just literally, Bezos paying his fair share could be the difference between Medicare for all and whatever health plan that we currently can come up with the pennies and dimes we're scraping together.
I also made the argument we're spending $1 trillion on defense. And the person who I was talking to treated this like it was new information that we spend more than the next 12 countries combined, 10 of which are allies. But I'm like, if we cut it in half, that gives us $500 billion to play with. I could renovate every school in America in one presidential cycle with $500 billion a year extra.
Yeah.
You want to make really great schools? I can do that. You want Medicare for all? The total cost of the program is $3 trillion. Sounds like a lot, but that's 12 years of half of the defense budget. That's all it is. And not even 12 years. That's assuming that 3 trillion was a not true number, and it's going to actually be more than that. But like literally 6 years of half of the defense budget or 3 years of the defense budget, and we have Medicare for all.
I just really hope that anyone who's listening to me is really thinking about the idea that a owning the libs political philosophy is not beneficial for you either. Like, I would love it. I'd love nothing more than if the Yankees had some sort of embarrassing story every single day in the paper that made me feel better about myself. There's even a part of me that would enjoy if the Yankees lost every single game for an entire season. They went 0-162. I would be filled with personal joy. But is that good for baseball? Is that good for the Orioles proving that they're a better team because they can actually beat the Yankees? No, it's not, because you don't have it. Like it just enjoying the suffering of others is not making you better. It's just making people suffer for no good reason. Like,
and I was going to say, if the Yankees lost every game and then the Orioles won 42 games and finished in 4th in the AL East, that doesn't make the Orioles a good team just because they finished better than this schadenfreude feeling you have about the Yankees.
Yeah.
When Boston is going to win 110 games and go on. It's like, we still didn't make the playoffs, folks. I don't know where you think this is a win for you. Good for you.
Yeah. I just don't. I was hoping that when I watched 5 days of election results, I would come back with a feeling like there has been a clear and serious repudiation of Trump, but that just did not happen. And I honestly think that just a lot of people are voting with the what angers Democrats, because I am a fan of the Republicans, and anything that angers Democrats is good for me. Like, this is the policy I need. Like,
I know you're not a big comic book fan, but do you know who the alternate Superman is? Like the Dark Superman?
The Bizarro Superman?
Bizarro Superman. Okay, so I just want you to understand that over the next 4 years, I'm going to be Bizarre Obama, because I am going to drive that hope from your soul. And by 2024, there is going to be no hope within you for anything in the future.
I look forward to all the hope being drained from me.
Bizarre Obama. Bizarre Obama. That's actually really good. I might have to make myself up like a red, white, and blue poster where I'm like, Bizarre Obama.
Is that a hope? It's just nope.
Well, yeah. Oh my God, that is look at. All right, patent pending. Or wait, what is it? Trademark. No. Copyright. All of them. We're covered. It's all good. But just when you thought the election of 2020 is over, it's not. As I mentioned earlier, Georgia not only is going to have to do a recount, but it was within 0.5% for both of the Senate seats, which means both of those Senate seats are going to have a runoff. And there is a chance that the Democrats will win both of those seats, but there's also a chance that a Republican will win one and a Democrat will win one. Basically, right now we are at 49-49. No,
48-50. If everything, there's still some races to be decided, but like
48-50, right?
It's basically looking 48-50 right now. Republicans in the lead.
And everything could shake out 50-50 with Kamala Harris having the tie-breaking vote on every vote. Also, I have a feeling Susan Collins is about to have a revelation that she needs to act a little more centrist and a little less Trumpy. But
see, I don't think she learned her lesson at all. She won without too much trouble. So McConnell.
No, but I think that without Trump in office, she's going to be like, okay, now I can actually be a centrist Republican where she wants to be.
I guess so. Yeah, she doesn't have to worry about like a tweet storm from Trump in the morning, calling her out and making her life difficult. Yeah.
But so here's where we are. On January 3rd, the 145th Congress, 144th Congress, wherever we are now, will be seated, and that is the Congress that will certify the results. It will include 2 senators from Georgia who 2 days later will have a runoff election. So whoever certifies the vote on the 3rd may not be the actual Congress that continues for the rest of the Congress, but Georgia will send representatives, even though they don't have official senators. So I think at that point it'll be 52-48, but those 2 seats could then swing back to the Democrats to be 50-50 later in the cycle, essentially. I mean, I posted all this on Instagram, but just my election wrap up. Thank you, women of color. You've saved us. If anyone did, it was you. If we can point out someone specifically, Stacey Abrams in Georgia. I don't know what we can do. Can we all just throw in like $5 and buy her something? I feel like that's where I'm at with her.
Here's what you can do. If you're really serious about thanking Stacey Abrams for everything that she's done, you can take her lead and do some proactive voter registration in Georgia if you're so inclined to do so. You can get on a phone bank. You can do things if you're not actually in Georgia to help the election. I am there's a lot of love for Stacey Abrams over the past week. I have loved Stacey Abrams for a long time. I said she should have been vice president over Kamala.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have been doing all this great work in Georgia if she was busy on the campaign trail, but
true.
I'm still very thankful for the work that she did. And I think that if you're really serious, it's one of those, you can put a black picture on your Instagram and say that you're for Black Lives Matter, or you can and then continue to do nothing with your life that supports that theory at all, or you can actually do something. You can put a picture of Stacey Abrams on your Instagram. You can thank her, and then rather than not doing anything, you can work and help get either John Ossoff or Raphael Warnock elected to the Senate in Georgia. And again, this is not a I desperately want a Democratic Senate thing here going, but more than anything, the Republicans in Georgia are fucking awful too. Like awful in a different way. Like for instance, like Kelly Loeffler and Perdue were both tied up in insider trading allegations that they knew more about COVID before anyone else did, and their stock portfolio increased based off of that. Not only that, Kelly Loeffler is very rich and doing very good. She owns a WNBA team in Atlanta. I don't remember what the Atlanta WNBA team is called, but she owns that team, and it is... I just can't even... these two do not deserve to be in office. Like, if you want to be a Republican and you want to run, you can. You just have to not be awful. Like that's my new baseline. I'm willing to vote for a Republican at some point, as long as they are not literally just the worst people being shoved through. You know what I mean?
I said if you want to do more than that, getting voter registration is great. Everyone who lives in LA, who is just like what can we do? Here's the deal. Houston, Dallas, Austin, Fort Worth have very similar weather to LA. Atlanta is a beautiful city. Move.
There's a film
'Cause
industry there. Yeah.
There and in Atlanta, there's a film industry, but we are within a hair's breadth of turning Texas blue, not because we've changed the vote, but because a bunch of hippies have moved into Texas and live in the cities, and they almost outnumber everyone else now. And same in Georgia. And you know what? If you came from the East Coast and you don't mind cold, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, move there and go vote there. But other than that, like that's where we're at. Banning the Electoral College is bad for a lot of reasons, which I spent 3 episodes of the Rob Explains podcast explaining. That's not really what we need to do. We need to get more voters in the right places and make sure people can vote. By the way, another 5 or 7 million people were cut from the voter rolls again in Florida and Georgia and Louisiana and Texas for being maybe they might have been a convicted felon, which just means their name was similar to somebody who was a convicted felon. Like, if we're going to say count all the votes, which is what Joe Biden is saying, great. Then we need to send the new Justice Department, not this one, because this one's corrupt as fuck, but send the new Justice Department into places like that and be like, how are you cutting people from the voter rolls? Because here's what we're going to do. Every time we find a voter who shouldn't have been cut from the rolls, we are going to cut your funding federally by 0.01%. How many voters am I going to find?
Yeah.
And you start putting in some consequences and people will stop doing shit like just cut 300,000. Yeah, they're close. Their names are close. I don't want to go look through it. So.
Also, there's just while we're talking about profiles and courage in the Republican Party and stuff like that, every tweet that comes out that says count every legal vote, don't count the illegal votes, that's what we do. That's the entire purpose of the election. If I dropped my ballot into a drop box 2 weeks before the election and then got struck by lightning on November 1st and died, they don't count my ballot. They go through, they start scanning it. They get a message that something's wrong with this person, and then that ballot gets pulled out and put aside, and then they go, oh, Corey died before Election Day. His vote doesn't count. Because by California law, you have to be alive voter. When the bad faith arguments of dead people are voting, or like the Republic or the Democrats had a box of 50,000 ballots that they decided to shove into the middle of the vote count when it looked like Biden was going to lose. Like, all of these things are not real. Like, yes, at one point in elections there were dead people who voted. Mm-hmm. There was some very skeevy stuff going on in Chicago during organized crime that turned a lot of dead people into registered voters in the city of Chicago. And because
New York too.
Yeah.
You came off the boat and we walk you up to go vote. That's how it works. Like, no, that's not how it works.
This is not the same thing anymore though, because there have been, since that happened, since in the late 60s or early 60s that at
least, yeah,
that Chicago had dead people voting, there have been a lot of things that have been put into place to keep that from happening again. So like every ballot I've seen has been barcoded and had specific information aligned to it. So if I sent in my ballot, they would scan it and know that it was me, and then know whether or not I was dead, and know whether or not I was legally allowed to vote, or any of these things. Like, it's
sorry, my Maryland ballot had 3 barcodes on the outside cover, on the inside cover, and then on the ballot itself. And I'm like, oh, that's because they scan it. The first scan says, is he dead, or has something happened, or has he already voted? And then the second scan is like, all right, now we're scanning the voter. All right. And then third scan is, now we're going to take the ballot. All right, now we count this. Like, it's ludicrous to say that people voted who shouldn't have voted. The fact that California gives IDs to people who aren't citizens doesn't impact the vote.
Yeah.
None of these things impact the vote. We count legal votes. That's it.
When somebody was asking somebody in Arizona, I believe, like what percentage of the ballots that, like, the provisional ballots were being thrown out or something like that. And they said, well, there was 100 people who put their ballot in the mail, but then were worried that their ballot wasn't going to be counted, so they went to their poll on Election Day and tried to vote and had to do it through a provisional ballot, and we got their ballot, so we threw out the provisional. They're, and they were going through all the numbers and how many people did this. You want to know how many people from a foreign country tried to vote in Arizona? I think it was.
How many?
Where you would imagine there were a lot of foreign people because it's right on a border.
I was going to say Joe Biden's winning by 12,000, so I'm going to say at least 15,000.
17 people who are not American citizens walked into a voting booth in Arizona, or walked into a polling center in Arizona, and thought they could vote. And to their credit, the State Board of Elections in Arizona said, hey, fill out this provisional ballot and we'll find out. And then as soon as they filled out the provisional ballot and said, oh, this guy is not from America, but rather Venezuela, they threw his vote out. That's how it works. There are systems in place that keep this from... Part of the reason why the vote takes so long is because there's so many different things that go along in the process to make sure that none of these... There's no problems.
And that... Just to be clear, though, that's not fraud, because there are countries in which being present in the country on election day makes you a voter. And I don't think it was Venezuela. I want to say it was somewhere Central America, because I think the rule in El Salvador or Guatemala is just basically like, are you here? Have you voted yet? No? Okay, come in and vote. Like, yeah, I'm from America. It's okay. Who are you voting for? Are you voting for Sandinistas or are you voting for somebody else? Okay, come on in. But, a country which we absolutely wrecked their entire democratic system.
Yeah.
Thank you, America. But
no, Rob. I don't know if you heard about this, but socialism did that.
Oh, is it like Venezuela, right? Yeah.
One last election point I'd like to bring up, because
go ahead.
John Kasich and Rick Santorum in particular were on this point on CNN after Joe Biden was declared the winner, and how close this election had been to being a Trump re-election if the progressives and the people who were saying defund the police and Medicare for all would have just shut the fuck up and gotten out of the way. Like, if Joe had made that more of his platform, then he would have lost by a lot. I'm going to tell you this right now from my political science background, including the degree that I did not finish but did a pretty good amount on. I don't have Rob's actual piece of paper, but I have most of the generalized knowledge there. People were going to vote for who was not people who voted for Biden were going to vote for anyone who was not Donald Trump, for the most part. There might be a small percentage of people who said, I really like Biden and I'm going to vote for Biden. I imagine any one of them would have voted for Elizabeth Warren if she was up there on the stage, or Bernie Sanders, or almost anybody. Like, this was not and as far as Biden's vote is a referendum on Trump, it means that 74 plus million people decided that they would rather have whoever was not Trump. So let's not act like having a centrist was the reason why Democrats won this election. I would rather argue that this is your warning. This is the last time we're going to do this. This is the last time we're going to hold our nose and pull the lever on this sort of thing. And if you give us a Joe Biden again, we're just going to say fuck it. If the stakes on the other side are not Trump, we're going to say fuck it. Like, that's the problem.
By the way,
if it's Marco Rubio versus Hillary Clinton in the 2024 election, I'm just throwing out a moderate Democrat. No, I'm not voting for Hillary. I'm not voting for Marco Rubio either, but I mean, like, I'm not voting for Hillary. You have to actually make it worth it for these people. And
I think that there's an argument too, though, that Trump was the same way, that people voted for Trump because he wasn't Hillary. And they're like, let's see what happens. And then we came 4 years later and we're like, okay, anybody who's not that guy, who are you throwing up? Biden. All right, good. He's got experience. Let's do it.
Sure. Why not? Let's do.
Yeah.
Couldn't
be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, Ted Cruz might have beaten Hillary Clinton. And obviously the polls were nonsense. So we can't even look at the polling from 2016. But there's a chance that Ted Cruz, as crazy and ridiculous as he is, might have beaten Hillary Clinton in the end. Because people would have just said, either I'm not going to vote, I'm going to stay home, or you know what? Like, let's give him a try. Let's give him 4 years and see what happens. Because that's basically what they did, which was my advice, as I recall, from 2016.
Yeah. That's why you said vote for Trump in 2016? Yeah.
Let's just see what happens. To be fair, I also just
fast forward in time to where you're wearing a gas mask, trying to argue why you have to wear a gas mask on the airplane.
Yeah. P.S. I got a video that's going to come out this week on my YouTube channel about how American Airlines is dumb, and how I literally looked at a COVID officer and said, "You're making me take off a 100% effective mask to put on a piece of cloth." And she was like, I understand that. Can you take the mask off? And I'm like, all right, sure. This is dumb as fuck, but I'm going to do it because I don't want to stay here. I want to go to the place I want to go.
Because I paid $80 for a flight, and I'm going to use it, goddammit.
Oh, first of all, not $80 anymore. And also, not skipping seats, not skipping rows. We back to every dumb American
sardines
traveling.
and a can kind of thing.
Yeah. But okay, so let's lightning round because we're already over an hour.
Yeah.
Let's lightning round the last couple of things. Non-election talk. So, well, kind of transition. Trump had his own Bloody Sunday, Monday massacre, where he fired a bunch of people. And as you aptly pointed out in our discussion before this, he basically fired everyone standing between him and firing a nuclear missile, which is very disconcerting.
Yeah. Well, I think back to when Susan Collins voted no on impeachment and said that Trump learned his lesson. And I just think about what could be happening in the next 70 some odd days with no guardrails in between Trump and doing something really fucking stupid. Because
and more,
if you're gonna mistakenly book the Four Seasons landscaping company, I don't trust you with the nuclear football anymore. I'm sorry, I didn't trust you before, but I'm saying like now specifically,
definitely
I really don't.
Yeah. And I was going to say the other aspect of this is one of those firings was the Secretary of Defense, who apparently the only thing people can find that he disagreed with Trump on was using federal troops to put down what Trump was calling an insurrection, which was protests. He didn't want to send federal troops in. So that means that if there are great protests in the next 70 days, expect federal troops, the Army or the Marines, to meet you in the street. And it's one thing to meet the National Guard, but it's a whole other thing to meet the Army.
Yeah. And there was another one about a Department of Justice higher up who quit because Barr was trying to argue that they needed to send troops down to like these states where the vote is in question and stuff like that. He's just like, I'm fucking out. I'm not doing that.
I don't want anything to do with this. There's going to be a tribunal after this, and I don't want to have my name on this at all, anywhere.
Listen, I only want to go to The Hague to visit.
So other news, Trump firing all the qualified people who stand between him and nuclear war. Biden already has a COVID task force team, which is not made up of the MyPillow guy and doctors that tell him what he wants to hear. It's made up of the preeminent epidemiologists and virologists who are available in the world. And I just saw the list and I'm like, I don't even know these names. Let me look at their qualifications. And the paragraphs under their names, I didn't even have to read through. I'm like, good, happy. I don't care.
Seems good
like,
to me.
Name, quarter of a page of education and skills. All right. Name, quarter of a page, education and skills. I'm like, then we look at Dr. Andy Sudeikis or whatever the guy's name is, who's the head of the COVID thing now. And it's like,
Tony Atlas.
Name. Yes, Atlas.
Yeah.
It's like, name, graduated medical school, practiced plastic surgery for 4 years. Trump team. All right.
Tony Atlas reminds me kind of Dr. Leo Spaceman.
Yeah, it's exactly. Help me, Dr. Spaceman.
Did you go to medical school? Of course. I went to the Ho Chi Minh School of Medicine.
That is him.
Ho Chi
that
Minh
is,
City
Dr.
School
Atlas.
of Medicine, yeah.
He's like, listen. As you can see, I have my card right here. Dr. Tony Atlas. The quotes are what I'm looking at. That's disconcerting to me. I don't really understand why the quotes. And he's like, I got an ongoing lawsuit with the state of Pennsylvania about the quotes. We're going to figure it out. Don't worry about it.
I'm hoping I can lose the quotes soon.
So let's just say Biden's team come January 20th, hell or high water, will not be Atlas and the MyPillow guy. It'll be qualified people. And over under, Corey, 2 weeks national mask mandate, January 20th.
I mean, I would think that. So I think that we might actually be there on most states before then. And because it's a state by state decision, I don't imagine we're going to get 100% adoption of this sort of thing because, like Alabama is just always going to say, fuck you, no matter what you tell them. So there's no point in hoping that we get all 50 states here. But I think we're going to get a lot closer because some states that had been against it already are going in, like Utah is now having a mask mandate. And they were not up for it before at all. It was not even part of the discussion before. But then in the past week, I think something like 20% of the people they've tested have come back with coronavirus. So they're like, yeah, we're past the point of of saying that we're not going to do this. We really have to do this. And
that's the other news from the week. The numbers are up insanely across the board, across the country. I told my parents, I love you. I would not have come if I hadn't already booked a ticket and taken the time off work and done it. And the last thing I need to do is to sit and play Call of Duty for 96 straight hours because I took the time off and I'm just going to sit in my apartment. So I came, but numbers are up in California. They're also up in Maryland. They're up everywhere.
Up by a lot in Maryland too, if I remember correctly, from what I was reading.
And from my own personal objective, it's not really so objective, but objective view, I see why. Like, I witnessed someone fighting with a Walmart employee about wearing a mask into Walmart. And I looked at the guy and I was just like, you're wearing a bandana on your head. Slide it down, bro, and you're good. He didn't want his bald spot to show, I guess. Anyway, so the numbers are growing out of control. It couldn't be a better time to bring in a new administration that is going to actually do something about it. What they can do about it, I guess we'll see. But it's not looking good at all. And the outbreaks are happening in New York. They're happening in LA. They're happening even in small states like Utah and also non-states like Washington, D.C., where the West Wing is apparently a hotbed of COVID activity.
Yeah.
And they continue to have events without masks and people continue to show up to them. And now Meadows, Ben Carson, brain surgeon, who, by the way, tweet of the week, starting to think Ben Carson got lucky on separating those twins. And I agree, Twitter person, because the more I learn about Ben Carson, I'm just wondering if he just like took a samurai sword and was just like, what, we ready? Shrunk. And they were like, oh my, you perfectly nailed. You separated them perfectly. It couldn't be done better. And he's like, I know. And then he walks into the doorway on the way out and you're just like, I don't know how he did it, but he did it. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, having dealt with Ben Carson now for 4 years. But Carson's positive. Meadows is positive. You also mentioned somebody else is positive in the West Wing now.
Oh, can't remember offhand. Oh, the guy who's heading the legal team for Trump's recount or
the lawyer.
Yeah,
the lawyer.
He's down with Corona right now. So always great when you have the figurehead of your legal team out with a disease that was caused by your own incompetence. So,
well, if he was stronger like Trump, it wouldn't even impact him. He would just, be taken by helicopter.
2 days worth of therapeutics. Get a bunch of get a subscription to Descript to be able to change all the videos that you shoot of Trump inside of Walter Reed, and you're good to go.
Well, and as I continue to point out to my parents all weekend long, yes, you can absolutely beat this virus if you have a private helicopter that takes you to a suite where 100 doctors are focused on nothing other than we must keep this man alive.
Yeah.
And then they give you stuff that's not FDA approved because it doesn't have to be. That's actually the law. You can give him whatever he's willing to take. It doesn't matter. If somebody had said, hey, birth control, yep, that's going to stop coronavirus. The president could have taken birth control, despite the fact that like everything in the material says men cannot be given this. This is very dangerous for men.
Yeah.
Like, give him birth control. It doesn't matter. If it's not FDA approved, we made, what we did is we took the blood of a bat that we got from China and we put it in a pill because we think we're going to fight fire with fire here. We're going to put some COVID directly in you and let it fight out with the COVID that you got.
Circling back to all the QAnon craziness, right? Imagine if the cure they gave Trump was the blood of the children that are taken from like all these conspiracy theories of QAnon having like these child sex slaves being traded across the country and people kill them for their life force or whatever it is. I don't even know how this thing goes, but like imagine if that was the cure and then Trump walks out and just like anytime a QAnon question comes up, he's just like, let's not judge so quickly. Maybe not all of it's crazy.
We're going to have to wrap this episode because I need to head over to some forums and start making some posts. Thank you for the idea.
Just making a new 8chan post.
Yep, I'm heading over to 2, 4, 6, and 8chan. I'm posting it everywhere.
All the
Trump
even
survived.
numbers are getting a post from me tonight.
Trump survived based on the blood of innocent children that he had injected in him.
They took it from Adam Schiff's hotel room in the W.
Here,
Transported
you want to talk
them
about
to Walter Reed.
Working across the aisle, Adam Schiff sacrificed 2 of his children to provide blood for Trump while he was recovering from COVID. That's why he was so young and spry.
You know, I one thing I wanted to mention, I didn't mention it before. This will be my last point here before we go. Speaking of the fuck your feelings and owning the libs philosophy of the right, I will admit that I have in my past held political beliefs or said that I hold political beliefs based solely off of spite. So, for instance, like I've always said that DC shouldn't be a state, and not because they don't deserve, like representation in Congress. It's just they don't deserve it. Like, I don't like people who are from DC. They drive too slow and they don't deserve to have senators and stuff like that. That is a joke that I tell all the time. Deep down inside, I know, yes, of course they deserve senators and a congressman and representation in government and everything like that. But I'm going to loudly say anytime I get the opportunity, no, DC can't be a fucking state. Look at these people. They're not allowed to be a state. And that is for no other reason to anger the people of Washington, D.C., who I love to prod any opportunity I get. And, it really crystallized my whole, like, owning the libs philosophy. So I wanted to make sure I got that out before I forgot about it forever.
Yeah, and listen, to be fair, clearly that's not your philosophy, or else we'd be talking about removing statehood from Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, because those are all the same reasons we would need to take away their statehood.
Yeah, the problem is you can't take them away. You have to do it proactively. You can't, because once you give DC statehood, they're gonna assume they have it forever.
Yeah.
Until Cory Baker becomes president, he's just like, hey, not so fast, you guys.
By the way, funny aside on that, the guy who was screaming at the Walmart
You want to
employee,
vote, you go to Virginia.
Go move to Virginia.
If you live in Arlington, if you want to vote.
The guy who was screaming at the Walmart employee about the bandana or not wanting to wear a mask was wearing a shirt that said something about snowflake. And that was the one thing I took away from that. I'm like, you're wearing a shirt that is making fun of snowflakes and screaming at a 19-year-old girl who's just trying to do her job.
Yeah.
Who honestly probably doesn't care. Honestly, she would rather just have you come in and be done with it, because she was wearing 2 masks that you were screaming in her face about. And you're wearing a shirt that says stop being such a snowflake. I can't with these people, honestly.
Well, if you want to know what I don't even have a finish to that. I was going to make some sort of America greatest country in the world, blah, blah, blah. OTheAnthem.com. Corey to OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/Corey Baker Film, and at LegendCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Much like most of America, I spent 5 days on the couch and didn't even realize it. It felt like one big, constant, long blur. So I was not as productive last week as I wanted to be, but I hope to be more productive this week. So enjoy that when I am.
Well, while Corey and most of America was not being productive, I continue to put out 2 episodes of the Everyman Movie Review per week. Borat is out. Trial of Chicago 7 is out. We got some more interesting things coming this week. I'm Thinking of Ending Things is coming up on Thursday. And When Jeff Tried to Save the World.
The movie Thinking of Ending Things. Just so we...
Yes.
that wasn't just a just throwing it out there on the podcast as we're heading out the door.
I mean, it kind of depends. It depends on what happens in the next little bit.
Depends on how many views that video gets.
Yes, it depends on how many views that video gets. But not only that, of course, we are keeping up daily episodes of Rob Explains. I just covered pareidolia and apophenia, which are seeing faces where they don't exist, and then holding beliefs which are aside from all logic and reason, which is very fitting in these days. So We'll continue to do 2 episodes of the reviews every single week. The podcast continues every single day. You're going to be able to find that around 5 to 6 a.m. Wherever you get podcasts. Social media at Robert N. Cheek everywhere, at least for now, until my children start tracking me down, my unknown children. And you know what we got to do, Corey? We got to get Brooks a social media so we can start promoting that.
Yeah,
as
well, I mean, he's been in the house for less than 24 hours. I haven't really gotten around to the social media strategy just yet, but
well, I was going to say that's about 20 hours less than I would think that Rachel would take to make an Instagram for him. So literally, we started the episode and then Rachel FaceTimed me and she was just like, I know you're running the intro video. Here, look at the dog. And I'm like, I got stuff to do. What are you doing? Come on.
He is really fucking cute, though. I just, he deserves an Instagram. Not every dog deserves an Instagram. This dog deserves an Instagram.
Yeah, but Rachel's not the one to make that call. She follows ugly dogs and apparently really cute dogs. So I don't really understand. I don't understand the logic.
Part of the thing I really love about Rachel is that she'll look at an ugly dog and she'll just be like, "Oh, he's cute." I mean, he's not, but he's cute. I'm just like, how do you come to that logic? That's why she's with me.
5 years. Yeah, it makes complete sense to me. I don't know. But on top of all of that, I have an unboxing video for a brand new toothbrush that I bought that's going to be coming out. Actually, it should have come out earlier, but then I realized when I landed, it didn't come out. So it'll be out right after this is up. So you can check that out. And on top of all of that, if you are super into conspiracies, like you think every conspiracy, not QAnon, but if you think other conspiracies like Bush did 9/11 or any of that stuff, if you're into those conspiracies, I want to hear from you. And if you think no conspiracies are true, I want to hear from you too, because I have an idea for a new show we're going to be talking about in 2021. Get at me. We're going to talk about all of that. But keep following on social media. I got a lot of irons in the fire and new projects coming all the time. And if you've been following along for NaNoWriMo, I did exactly 0 writing up and until today, which means I should be at 15,003 words. And when I left Maryland, I was at 0 words. Luckily, I was stuck on the tarmac for 3 hours right before my 6-hour flight. So I am now at 8,000 words. The one good thing about being stuck in a plane. And I'm going to try and catch up this week. So I'll be posting about that. If you're writing for NaNoWriMo, follow along. It's a good chance to write a novel. So I'm going to have my new novel out at the end of the month.
Excellent. Well, I think we've done good here today.
I think we've done something, but I'm also super goddamn exhausted. So
you and me.
I mean, we've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody. We're going to try to be live again next week. We'll see.
At a reasonable time.
I'm going to take that COVID test, and we're going to see the one time you hope for. I guess you always hope for a negative, right?
I do.
Yeah, we've lived different lives, Corey. I don't know what to tell you.